As Tony Robbins said, people are not lazy. They simply have goals that do not inspire them. That is really the central thing that you have to find. You've got to find that thing in your life that makes you feel most alive.
Realists are not afraid to look at the harsh circumstances of life. They sharpen their eye by paying keen attention to details.
Hey. Hello, puppies, and welcome, Zen. I mean, he had his cameo at the beginning of the show, so we didn't really have to do much prompting. What did you guys think of that intro, by the way? Instead of me just staring intently into your souls for when the screen starts,
looking into our souls.
I do. I just stare at you guys. It's So welcome, and for everyone, this is Isle of Martial Arts, because Zen here, as we very clearly demonstrated, knows his stuff. I mean, oh my god.
Just a little bit, just a tiny bit.
A little bit. So, how you been?
I've been good. It's I've been better, of course, right? With this pandemic going on, it's been a rough couple of months, to say the least. But right. As humans, what we do is we adapt and we persevere and we move forward. So it could be worse. And so with that being said, it's been good.
I do agree with you that it's been hitting other people harder than others. Like for me, I'm an introverted and I curl up with my cup of hot cocoa and I sit in the window. But I mean, so are you ready? Are you ready for me to ambush you? Although I don't know if theoretically I could ambush you. So
bring it on. Bring on.
All right. So I would like to start off by asking, how long have you been doing martial arts and what kind of got you started into it?
So I've been doing martial arts since I was 5 years old. Mm-hmm. It's been a long time. And I think for me, what got me into martial arts, it was being a little kid and watching the older folks watch, just martial arts films and things of that nature. And I think for a lot of kids, they'll watch a martial arts film or some kind of show, and then they'll practice little moves in the corner a little bit, and then they'll move on, right? But for me, I didn't move on. For me, it was one of those things where I watched it and I was like, wow, I want to be like that. I want to be strong. I want to be fast. I want to, just, I guess, get my human potential up to the highest ability. So for me, I took it as something that was, I wanted it to be a part of my life, right? And it could be that that's just my inclination and my personality was already kind of like leaning towards it in some type of way. And I was like, found it, got it, mine. It's part of me now, right? So yeah, and I've been doing martial arts pretty much my whole life. I first got introduced to martial arts through the process of going to a center, right? It was like a free center, and they offered on Taekwondo there, and I went there, and I loved it. I think I just love all forms of martial arts and the cultural aspect behind it. Right. So I went there religiously for the next, couple of months, even up to years. But then the program ended up shutting down right at that school. So it was pretty sad, but at the same time, it wasn't something that just denied me from martial arts, because it's a way for me, it's a way of living and a way of being. And I practiced it religiously even after that, until eventually, I would say in late elementary school, I went to a sleepaway camp and they had martial arts there too. And then I was like, yes, thank you. Thank you to the ethers. And I practiced judo there for a while. And then after that, the next 7 years was just me coming back in. I think I had enough funds to go to a martial arts school at that time. So I've been doing martial arts pretty much all the way up until that time. So I would say consistently since elementary school, but I started martial arts since I was 5, right? And from that time, I just dabbled into various martial arts as a way of life and a way of being for me.
Got you. Now, is it just Taekwondo and Judo? Are those the two that you are most skilled in, or do you have a wider range?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's a wide range, but after a while, I started to really focus on just like grappling and also weapon mastery, right? And the weapon mastery was just something that I was just like, I really love to see folks utilizing the ability to use a weapon as like an extension of their own body, right? And so for me, it was just like it didn't even matter which martial arts weapon, except for one. There's one that I really don't like as much, but I started to train to use it anyway because I don't like it. I'm one of those people, like, if I don't like it, maybe it's something that I haven't gotten used to yet. That's why I have to like train harder to appreciate it more, right?
Right. Just out of morbid curiosity.
It's a kama. So kamas are kind of like hook blades that were originally used for like I would say for crops and cutting down weeds and things of that nature. So it's yeah, it was one of those I guess martial arts weapons that I didn't really cling to, and then I knew I had to get to know it better, and now I'm pretty proficient in using it. So yeah.
I mean, nice job. Like, it reminds me of like Maze's daggers from Lucifer. I'm like, there'd be no way. I would never know how to use any of those.
Oh no, it's one of, you know what, if I was to give any type of advice, I would say the more you use something, the better you get at it, right? Through the process of trial and error, right? Because
practice.
Again, like I was saying in the beginning, it's if you have a kind of like the blueprints of how to practice it, your body will start to adapt and gain second nature and mastery over it, right? Not mastery, but I would just say adaptation. You'll start to notice, oh, I used to drop this a lot, right? And now it's not dropping it from my hand as many times. And you get to the point where, the utilization of a weapon is no longer falling from you, right? Because it's now part of your arm, right? And when I say a part of your arm, it's like the way you wield it is now second nature to you, essentially.
Right. So if you are skilled in almost all the weapons or all martial arts related weapons, how many different martial arts are you skilled in, like as like fighting techniques with like fists? Because there was a lot. I kind of just Googled martial arts because really the only ones that I could think off the top of my head were like karate, taekwondo, just kind of like the main ones.
Right.
There was a whole listing. So is it just like the main ones you stick to, or did you try and train yourself in like all kinds of different martial arts?
Yeah, so I would definitely say what would be categorized as like proficient. I don't think that I'm proficient at all. I think I'm an everlasting learner. So for me, it's again, for me, if I was to give some kind of explanation as to why I practice martial arts, is just for a way of being and a way of living. It isn't like to go fight someone around the corner but it is to utilize the ability to protect oneself and gain mastery over oneself is why I practice martial arts. So for me, I have dabbled in a lot of martial arts, but the ones that I think for me, I don't know, I'm a little bit like, my head is a little bit all over the place sometimes, so I can't. So I do dabble in a lot, but I think the one that's given me most centering is not because of the martial arts, it's because of the sensei that I had, and that would have to be karate, or karate, right? and it's because of my sensei, not really because of the art. The art was brought to life by my sensei,
Mhm.
and then I took it in, right? So I think it's
Right.
all depending on, you'll hear these discussions like which martial arts is better, and I'm like, well, it's which one do you cling to the most, right?
Mhm.
Which one do you see yourself doing the most? And I think for me, it would be karate, but again, I practice all and appreciate all versions of martial arts and cultures itself.
Right. I remember I did karate when I was young, and
Hmm.
I remember my sensei was really cool just in the way he was teaching. And it was you were talking about weapons usage earlier and how you
Okay.
always just like seeing people fight. My sensei at the end of our sessions would let me sword fight him, where I basically
Mm.
got to swing a sword time. And he would and he would use like pads and he'd block, and then he'd
Right, right.
another foam sword. But it's just like at the end of every session he'd let me try and hit him over the head with the sword. It was
Oh man.
um
I see Night Tiger said, I'm a lover, not a fighter. Yep, I'm the same way. I'm a lover, but I do know how to protect myself and my family just in case.
I was gonna prompting the next question is, have you ever had to use it? Now it doesn't mean have you ever had to kick somebody to the curb. It's more of a have you ever got to like show off in front of people, or like have you used it other than just self practice? Have you like demonstrated it, taught anybody, maybe kick somebody to the curb, something like that?
Have you ever seen this called anybody?
I like that. Kick someone to the curb. For me, a couple of times I did have to use, unfortunately, I did have to use martial arts, right? A couple of times in my life, and I did a couple of seminars, and I taught students at my past school before my profession now. That I taught a couple of clubs and things of that nature. But the one time that I did have to use martial arts, I guess, was a point when I was walking home from Mickey D's. Right? I don't want to say. You know what Mickey D's are,
Right.
Sure.
just
Yeah.
just in case they come out and be like copyright. But I was walking home late at night one time, and then there were a group of I want to say kids. I can't even. This it was a long time ago, so I want to say kids, but it looked like they were older slash.
Young adult type.
Yeah, so it was one of those things that they came over and said they were asking like, where are you coming from, right? And in my head, I'm like, is this a like? Actually, I'm coming from McDonald's, right? Mickey D's, right? And but basically they were like, run your money, you know, and that just meant like, give me your money. So at the time, for me, I just gave them my money. I'm not, for me, martial arts is also being mentally disciplined, right? I'm not going to say like, no, I'm not going to give you my money because I could get hurt really bad. But I did give them everything that I had, and that wasn't enough for them, right? So there was a point where I had to do kind of like a run, stop, fight, because there was too many, right? But luckily, I was fast enough to do that run, stop, fight, where I could fight off one person, and then the horde would then, I want to say horde, because for me, the 5 people were a horde, at that time. And luckily, I made it out. How were those kids? I don't know. At the time, I did, but like going back to Night Tiger, I'm a lover, not a fighter, because I did end up going back home wondering if they're okay, because there were like 2 of them that I did drop, right? So, but it was like, is that person okay? Did I do anything that like will send me somewhere? You know what I mean? So it was one of those situations. A later time when I did need to use it, unfortunately, it was one of my first jobs where I worked at this arcade center as a mechanic, and there was a gentleman that I guess came in, and he was under the influence, and he was harassing one of our supervisors there. And I remember leaving. I was actually leaving from work that time, me and a coworker. And as we were leaving, we saw the guy just kind of like hovering down in our face, right? So I went over there just to kind of just make peace, right? I'm like, it's okay, sir. Um, like we could talk about it. And then he didn't want to talk about it, so as soon as I turned my face, he punched me, right? literally punched me and broke my nose, right?
Oh,
Yeah. And he broke my nose. So and at the time, adrenaline kicks in, and your body knows the right brain chemicals to release so you don't feel any pain, because I didn't even feel it that it was broken.
right,
Um, so at that point, I took him down, right? And I didn't take him down in the sense of like punching him. He threw another punch, and I countered, and I put him down to the ground and held him until security came, right?
right,
So that was the second time, and probably I would say the last real time, and that was in my early 20s. I think I was 22 at that time when that happened, because that was one of my bigger first jobs. And yeah, it was
wow,
it was pretty intense. But what I felt really proud about is how I handled it and how my body reacted to it, right?
right,
I think when I go back, the adrenaline pops back into my body, right? Because
right,
it's like my body just reacted, and it reacted because of the practice and time again. Not for that first punch, because obviously I broke my nose, right? But that second punch, or the volley of other punches that came forth after, were basically like, well, body, you know what to do: counter, put down, react, wait, right? And
right,
that's when you get that appreciation for your body, right? It's like, wow, you went through all this training and then it really worked, right?
right.
um
Muscle memory. Yeah,
yeah, that muscle memory was real. So I think those were the two occasions in my life, if anything. There were more occasions, but I would say they were more mental martial arts, right?
right,
React Dealing with the situation mentally to protect yourself, rather than enduring and going through for the sake of saying like, oh, I want to fight, right? So
right.
and then to answer your question a little bit more, I've done tournaments too, and those are just like fun, and you meet some really great friends that become rivals, and they grow up with you. So a lot of my friends that I've known from like other countries, we're still friends just because we had tournaments together, and
Wow.
at the end of tournaments, we're like, see you next year, and that was always like the best thing, seeing a friend way later on. So
Wow. Yeah. Dang, man. When I said, have you ever actually had to kick anybody to the curb, I was not actually expecting you to have an actual story for that.
yeah, there's stories, but I'm laughing at Super Russ, WWE still chair.
I'm going to blip for just a second because Kate is now going to come in. So, yeet.
All right, teleportation.
All right. Let me just get this chair out of the way here. All right. All right, everybody, and welcome to BBA 99's Fire Facts. So let's jump straight into it. So the first fact is that Andre has 22 swords, one of them being over 6 feet long. Like,
Oh yeah.
dang. And fact number 2 is that Andre and I have collaborated recently, and there will be a new video coming out very soon. So be sure to stay tuned on Zen's channel and my channel to see its release. It'll be super fun. All right. Now, fact number 3 is that the first swords were made in 1600 BC, being an evolution of the dagger. So that's pretty cool. Now, if you guys don't mind,
I'm honestly more I don't know what to be more concerned with. A sword that's taller than I am, or where Kate got that one.
Yeah, and that sword is purely for decoration. It's nothing that I could wield. I actually bought like a replica of a sword from a character named Sephiroth from the video game Final Fantasy. So it's characterized as a masamum. So it's a sword that's about like 6 feet high. It's like right above my head, right here. But it's just for decoration. Nothing that's like practically wielded.
I'm like, okay, how can you actually use a 6-foot sword? I'm sorry, that's like little Lionel trying to lift the sword of omens, where it's like just on the floor, and all you can do is just outstretch your hand.
Oh man, that alone brings back some really good memories. Thundercats.
That's what we grew up on, man. So
Yeah, me too. See, that was one of the things that kind of catalyzed like me wanting to get into like martial arts, right? And I didn't
Right.
really, because I was born in '84, and that was around the time Thundercats came out,
Mm.
and
oh,
and and I think I was around 2 years old when I was like, just sitting in the background watching Lionel do his thing and Chitara being really fast and me saying like, I want to be fast and I want to be able to use the sword. And I think those things just kind of stuck with me, right?
Right.
So.
Okay, man. Okay, so
Can we see some of the swords?
I know I was gonna say, speaking of swords and 22 in your collection,
I want to see the sharp pointy
do
objects.
do you have some to show off?
Yeah, so let me see. If I move to the side, I took some off the hook in the background. If you can see my background.
Yeah.
So I have 2 racks and
just one rack for 11 swords each. That's perfectly safe.
just one. I have these bad boys. So this is kind of a twin blade. They do unite. They do merge together, which is pretty cool. So I'm not gonna twist them on now, but the reason why they're kind of like wrapped up, and I'll unsheath them a little bit, is because they're really sharp. really
flail
sharp.
these things around in circles near your head.
Well, I never practiced with this one unsheathed. So it's always sheathed all the time. So like in the intro that you played, it was sheathed at the time.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. Well, this one in particular, because it's actually it's sharpened. So like if I tap it like twice, just a tiny bit hard, it'll slice open my skin. So this is, and a lot of folks probably know what this is. This is a Karambat, and there are different types, right? This is kind of like a Eagle's Claw version that I really practice with quite a bit in terms of like military tactics and training. And again, that's just to push my potential to new heights, right? That's all I practice for. So if I'm doing any kind of martial arts or military based training, it's just for me to be ready for anything that might happen while still being a lover at the same time. I have, these are not swords, but
you have the Raphael size. Oh my god.
I do have size.
I thought Electra. Maybe I thought of both.
Yeah, my size are, I'm not really, I don't know. I haven't really dabbled. This is more just collection, really. This is one of the things that I haven't really practiced with that much at all. There are more swords on this side, but I wanted to show you all, I guess, my first sword that I've ever had, which is, it has a name. I do have a name for my sword.
As you should.
She's called Heaven. And
that's kind of
awesome name.
It's kind of an oxymoron.
She is bent, and she is stuck in the sheath. And I don't know if I could get her out. Yeah, I can. Okay. So she is bent, but this is my first sword. And when I say, like, I really have feelings for this sword, and what I mean by that is there were so many times where, like, if I was sick, or even when my mom passed away, where she recently did pass away, there were just times that I just held this sword, right, just to give me some kind of, I guess, for lack of better words, just some kind of like energy, or not energy, but just like strength to like keep on moving, right? Because the time when I was training with this sword, I remember when it got bent, and I remember like a tear kind of went down on my eye, but I remember it just, it's steel, and it's as you can see, it's black. Well, it's kind of glaring as silver in the side, but at the same time, it's like something that I've always kept. The sheath is broken. I broke the sheath trying to force her in, right? And so, it's one of those things that this is my first sword, and the one that kind of means the most to me, out of all the swords. So, and there she is.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, no problem. It's one of those things where when I first had this sword, I couldn't, it was too heavy for me. It was really heavy for me. And then I remember promising myself that I need to get strong enough where I could wield her as if like I'm not holding anything anymore. So I think I'm finally there where I'm holding it, and it's not, my wrist isn't hurting at the end of the day when we used to train like all the time. So yeah.
Dang, man. So would you just do like air movements, or would you actually like practice on I know some people use like styrofoam or like sandbags, stuff like that. Would you ever train on actual props, or would it just be the movements?
No, it would be mostly the movements. Definitely from my sword katas and sword play. So many, so many different katas, and different forms of sword play. But I would say definitely there's a. I had a tree, right? I had a tree. It sounds like a song or a poem, but I had a tree that was like wrapped around with like styrofoam and a lot of different things, and
Mhm.
so I would train, but I would never use it on the tree, just for the
Right.
foundation, right? Because trees are like everything to me too. Hence Zen, right? So yeah, it was a. I would train quite a bit, like quite a bit.
Which I mean, has got to be a really good workout, and I would imagine that it's just a big stress reliever. You know, like
Yeah,
just how like people find different ways to exhaust a stressful day or just something going on in their lives. I can definitely imagine that.
yeah, and you said it, you hit it right on the nail. So, depending on how my work day was, I would come home and I would just train, right? That would be my thing. I would just train. And depending on if I didn't want to use too much energy, I might use my nunchaku and just like train with my nunchucks, right? Or nunchucks, another name that you may have heard. So I'll just train, I'll just like flow. And that's exactly what it is. I'm just flowing, right? The whole entire time. And before you know it, like a whole hour has passed or 2 hours have passed. And then I'm like, I'm good. Like endorphins have already kicked in. My mind is in a different state of mind and it kind of resets my day, right? So
Right, which is amazing. Yeah. Um. So I did for the last couple minutes. I also wanted to ask because you do say that you are a lover, not a fighter, but you are very, very skilled in all of these different kinds of fighting and weapons. Um, what kind of is like your hero's philosophy? What do you see yourself as when by knowing all of this, but by being so calm?
So my hero's philosophy, I guess, would be doing the right thing for the right reasons, right?
Mm,
And that could dive into a lot of different spectrums, right? And for me, it's I always follow three principles. Which is discipline, integrity, and confidence. And first, the hierarchy is always going to be integrity, right?
mm,
How you treat people and how you treat yourself, right? So and I know there's the golden rule, like treat others the way you want to be treated, but I always say like treat others better than how you would want to be treated. Everyone should be comfortable in your presence and not feel threatened by your presence, right?
right.
But they should also know that you have their back just in case something was to happen. So I think part of me also wants to treat others right, but also know that they can feel protected when they're standing by my side, right? I
Right.
kind of someone in the chat earlier mentioned ninja, and I kind of go by that. I mean, it goes hand in hand with like the ninjas who would always protect the shogun, right, or something of the nature, right? It's kind of like you would protect the people that you're with because that's your honor, right?
Right.
And it's about doing right by people and just being there for them, right? Even if you feel like you're at your weakest point in your life, that no matter what, you're still gonna have the energy to be there for someone else, whatever that might be. So if I'm going in the morning time and even though I feel like horrible, I'm going to say good morning to someone because
Right.
you never know that one good morning could then send shockwaves to or a butterfly effect to that one person who will then send it to other people and that will multiply, right?
Right.
Um, so sometimes that's all it takes. It might only take like a smile at a person to let them know that like they might say like damn like that's all they won't say it implicitly but they might see someone smile at them and then that's enough to change their whole day or enough for them to feel like why are you smiling at me, right? But it but enough but what I'm saying is that as much as bad vibes could spread, so much can good vibes that will spread too, right?
Right. Yeah. which I believe in wholeheartedly, because if you have someone who's having a really bad day, they can spread their bad day to someone else.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. And I've worked in retail for 3 years. I've had days like that where I will be having a terrible day because of XYZ, and then just one person comes up and is unbelievably nice. I'm like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, and I always try to be that counter, right, for that bad vibes that comes towards me. I try to like be that dragon that overtakes them with like good vibes. It's like, are you actually mad at me? Why are you so mad, right? And they're like, I'm not mad. I'm like, well, can I do something to make you happier, right? And usually that's enough to be like, oh, unexpected, right? So
Right.
yeah, there's so many things that just one person can do, right? Just by like a single action that people don't realize. And I always, like I tell my son, yeah, all the time, like you don't realize how powerful you really are. And I always go back to saying, like, when I'm talking about powerful, I don't mean powerful in terms of like your strength, your physical strength, but in terms of your integrity. How far can your integrity go to help other people, right? In
Right.
servitude for other people. Um, and again, sometimes it's like the content that you have on the show, right now, that is enough to make someone just kind of like lose all forms of stress in their life in order to gain that strength to just move on, right? Just
Right.
because we're on a show for 31 minutes and 40 seconds plus is enough for someone to just say, I could move on. I could continue, right? And I think that's where martial arts is a little bit deeper for me. That it's not just the physical aspect; it's also the spiritual and the mental aspect, and all of them could go hand in hand and together. So
Right. Yeah. Dude.
you're hearing the real Zen now come out of me, not the one on my YouTube page. This is like Zen. This is me now.
Well, it's nice to hear, and especially because when I could be just speaking into open air when I say this, but is someone who's like, oh yeah, martial arts, and then comes in to hear about the fighting and the brutality of it, and then it's like it's a lot more than that, and I think that some people tend to forget that there is always a philosophy behind
Right.
different fighting and codes of integrity and honor and such.
Right.
And it is just really nice. So hi. No.
Yeah, and there's and I met many different people who do martial arts for a lot of different reasons, right? Yeah, so many different reasons. And there are folks that I know that only practice the katas alone, um, or the martial dances, as others would say. And some will do it just because they want to go into tournaments. They love the thrill of being in tournaments just as much as like some people love to do mountain climbing and things of that nature. And there are some who just do it for peace and serenity, and some who do all of it. There's so many different layers to why someone might gravitate to a specific martial art or just martial arts in general. So it's wide and it's deep.
Right. I think what needs to happen next is we need a picture on your Instagram of you on a yoga mat doing meditation.
Yeah, I do it all the time. It's every morning and in the nighttime. But mostly I do a lot of imagery training. So I'm one of those people who cannot. It's really hard. It's not. Well, I don't want to say cannot because I don't like that word, cannot. But it's very difficult for me to meditate without some kind of like a push version, right? And what I mean by that is I need to be led through it.
Right.
I could lead others through a meditation, but for me to lead myself, it takes a long time, right?
Right.
So I usually need to put on something where someone is using that kind of ASMR voice to lead me through a form of meditation, or I need to just hold on to an image and then I could guide myself through it, right?
Right.
So it depends. On music helps me too, right? Depending on the music might get me through a specific form of meditation. But I'm a heavy fan and just believer in meditation. Well, there's nothing to believe because it actually does work based on research. But I think for a lot of folks, it's harder to get in if it's not something that you're used to practicing.
Right.
And contrary to belief, there are so many different forms of meditation, right? Some people who run, they're actually meditating while running, right? They're in what we would call the zone, right? Or the flow state of mind. Where you're just kind of gone for a little bit, and then you realize, like, whoa, where was I? How did I get here? But meanwhile, your body was leading you. You're in the zone, and so you could listen to music and you're meditating, right? It's all about what your goal is in terms of that meditation, right?
Right.
So
I think that's probably a good
Thank
place
you.
to end
Yes,
it. Yeah.
absolutely perfect.
So thank you so much for coming on the show and for letting me ambush you with a range of different questions. Thank you to everyone who joined us. I've seen some people that I haven't seen on for a little while. So thank you to everyone who came to watch and has been commenting and asking questions. And I think that the line we should end on is use the golden rule,
yeah.
because it's important. So thank you everyone for coming. And as always, we will see you all later.
The end.